There are a lot of unique and complex characters in the game of Blood on the Clocktower, and the goal of this video series is to help you get a bit more comfortable with some of the things that can happen in a game and help you develop your skills as a storyteller so that you can handle anything your players throw at you. And we'll do it again. Alright, welcome back to the Cutlass Board Games channel. This is episode 2 of some of the storyteller tools that I've been working on. What we're going to be doing is going through rack-ups of some different character setups in the game for Trouble Brewing in this episode. And we'll be looking at some of the things that you need to be mindful of as a storyteller and to try and build out a balanced game. The most obvious one is trying to get an idea of how experienced some of your players are, because a first-time demon is going to be a much easier game for the good team than a very advanced demon. So, keeping in mind these things, we're going to build a rack up and we're going to look at if we think it is balanced or not. First things first, every game has an imp. Second thing, and because in our last episode we did the spy, we are going to change it up to Poisoner. I think the Poisoner is probably the most commonly used minion, because both a new player and an advanced player can both just kind of shoot in the dark and pick out people that are alive and hope that the poisoning does something relevant. An advanced player getting more information about the game and learning about people will be able to make more impactful choices, and the skill ceiling is relatively low because you can just get lucky and make up for that. But we're going to start off with Imp, Poisoner, and then once we put all the characters in the game, we're going to make an assumption on how expert we think these people are for balancing. In the last game, we used the Butler, so we're not going to use it this time. We're going to use the Recluse instead. Now, because we have Poisoner, Recluse, we have some pretty big misinformation roles. As before, the Butler is not a misinformation role. The Butler is a voting control outsider. This means we're playing an information-focused game, and we want to get some information townsfolk into the game that can be potentially poison or misread on the Recluse. One of the best ones is the Undertaker for this, because the Undertaker is a reactionary information role rather than a proactive information role. It only finds dead players. It's not going to tell you who the alive demon is. So it being a secondary information character is going to be pretty good. It should not be the only each night information character that you have. I think the Investigator is pretty good here. And now the Recluse's ability should only mislead a certain number of players each game, because it can be pretty rough. And you have the choice, because it is a might register. You can choose how you want the Recluse to register to people. So if I add the Investigator to the game, I can make the Recluse be read as a minion for the Investigator at the beginning of the game. Or, let's say I do that, right? Later on, if a Fortune Teller, for example, hits the Recluse, the Fortune Teller could go, this is the demon. But I have the choice, right? I don't have to say that the Recluse registers as a demon. I could see that the good team's actually doing really bad in this scenario, and the Fortune Teller getting a no on the Recluse would make them not a demon candidate, but potentially discredit them and get them executed. So you have to be thinking about what kind of follow-on effects that the character setup can have and the starting information has. So I think this is fine. We're going to start off with the Investigator. Let's put the Fortune Teller in. That is 3. We need 2 more, and we're going to come back to our starting information characters. The Washerwoman is a fantastic starting information character. If you believe that your good team, or even just your players, are more beginners, because a Washerwoman will help them find friends to work together with the game. And I think the last one, we already have the Investigator, we have the Washerwoman. We're going to go Empath as our final character. Alright, now we've got our setup complete. We've got the Imp, the Poisoner, that is our evil team. We've got the Recluse, which is our outsider. We've got the Undertaker and Fortune Teller and Empath, so we have a lot of information in the game. And then Investigator, Washerwoman. In this particular setup, we have all good info players, and we have outsider misinformation and evil team misinformation. So the Poisoner actually hitting here is going to be really impactful. But they also kind of can't miss unless if they target the Recluse. So, Undertaker doesn't do anything too early in the game, so if the Poisoner hits that, that's not going to be too great. The Investigator and the Washerwoman could be very strong hits. In this case in particular, because we have a lot of good info characters, we know the Empath isn't going to hit the Recluse until after the end of the game. The Fortune Teller might. We hit the Recluse with the Investigator. So I think Recluse, Undertaker should be the two people shown, and the Recluse being the... I think the Scarlet Woman. I think the Recluse being the Scarlet Woman is the better choice here. The Recluse being the Poisoner tells the players a Poisoner is in the game, which I would only do if I was confident that the evil team was going to be in front on this one, because they have a big disadvantage with how much information is in the game and how much misinformation they can put into the game, that it is going to be pretty hard for them. This is not a setup I would let fly if it was a beginner demon and a beginner Poisoner, so we have to assume that they are both advanced, but they have so many tools that they can work with here. So helping them out by making the Investigator see the wrong thing and something that's not in play could help. If you gave outsiders as bluffs to the demon, you could show Baron, where people would assume that there's 3 outsiders in play. One being drunk, which is unseen, and the demon claiming 1. Or potentially the Poisoner claiming 1. I think Saint, showing Saint as a bluff could be pretty good. And the Investigator comes out, goes, I saw Baron, between one of these two people. The Undertaker is like, look, I'm going to be able to verify myself later on, and the Recluse is like, I'm the Recluse. And the Recluse registering as a Baron could just be Baron. Okay, then we've got the Washerwoman. Who does the Washerwoman see here? I think definitely not the Empath. The Empath is the greatest threat to the evil team right now. So the Empath being verified as a good player ends the game. The other neighbor of the Empath is the Washerwoman. So if the Washerwoman goes, what's up? I know you're the Empath. You know at least I'm good, because I just cold your character. I would have to be the spy in any other scenario. And the Empath goes, well, I did get a 1. And the Washerwoman says, let's kill the other guy and see what happens. They kill the Imp, the game ends. Not great. So the Washerwoman can't hit the Empath. The Empath is already kind of a big scary thing. The Washerwoman probably shouldn't hit the Fortune Teller. I would maybe go for Undertaker. If the Washerwoman hits the Investigator, that can back up the Investigator's wrong information, because you know the Investigator is not the drunk. That could be a way to go if you weren't that confident in the evil team being able to win here, because the odds are already pretty stacked against them. And also, like, this is not a random seeding chart, this is a specific seeding chart. The same as the previous one, which doesn't have a lot of, balance in it. They just happen to be sitting next to each other. It just happens to be how this fell out in a clockwise order in which I selected the characters. So it's not going to be pretty commonly where everyone's going to be stacked together like this in particular, but it does make it easier for us to discuss things when they all kind of follow a similar pattern. Then we have Fortune Teller, right? So the Fortune Teller can hit the Recluse and the Imp. And a red herring. So we have to pick who the red herring is going to be. I think the Empath being the red herring is the best choice here, because we are trying to balance the game to keep the evil team in it. If the rack up comes out and it looks like the evil team has a big natural advantage, like the good team can't really do anything, putting the red herring on a inconsequential character rather than a critical one is going to be a much better choice. And depending on who the other person is selected, when the Recluse is selected would be if I show a yes or no. Obviously, if they pick Demon and Recluse, I have to say yes. But if they pick maybe Poisoner and Recluse, I say no, because the Poisoner might get killed in the scenario where the Recluse doesn't come out as Recluse or something like that. But I think this is fine. If this was the exact setup that I had, and it was evil players that were not super skilled, not super confident, it would be a pretty tough game for them. So that's it. That is kind of our rack up. I am curious to think, what do you think? Do you think this would be a balanced rack up? The whole point of this video series is to give you some ideas about what kind of stuff you need to be thinking about when it comes to building together a game, and looking at how the characters are going to interact together, what kind of assumptions you need to make about the players in your group. Is this going to be balanced? Is this going to favor a particular player, like an advanced player on the Virgin who becomes good, will know how to run the entire game, and process all the information and put the good team on their back and try and run it all the way to the finish line. And these are the kind of things that you need to be thinking about when it comes together to building a good rack up. This has been another storyteller utility video from Cutlass of Board Games. If you did like this, please let us know in the comments, or post some rack ups for us to have a look at, or any questions that you have so we can go over it and make sure that you're going to be the best storyteller you can be.